Hello everyone, today I'm in London, England, and I just got off the subway at the Tower Gateway station here, and I'm going to walk over to the financial district and the Bank of England, which is about a mile from where I'm at. And I'm sure glad that I didn't drive today, because there's a lot of streets like this in London and England in general, and I just find them a little bit confusing. One confusing aspect is I do not see the name of the street on any of these traffic signals, and I know sometimes they put the name of the street on the sides of the buildings, and I can't even find that here on this intersection. None of these light posts have them. Looks like they got cameras up there, but so if it wasn't for the Google Maps, I would just be completely lost out here, or it would just take a lot more time. I mean, the street name is probably around there somewhere, but the time that you would have to spend to find it, I would just rather be doing other things. And I actually asked a few Londoners about that, and they just say it's just a English thing, and that's just what they do. And I'm not really sure why they do that, but anyhow, continuing on, a couple landmarks here off to the left. This is the Tower of London, and that was a royal palace built in the year 1078, so it's almost 1,000 years old. And that's been the home of numerous kings and queens. And also directly ahead, that big pyramid looking building, that's called the Shard Building, and I take it as that means more as in a shard of glass, and that is a office building, and it's supposed to be the tallest building in London. It's approximately 72 stories tall, and it was built in 2012. And it's nice that the sun came out today, or at least it did so far. I've been here 3 days now, and it's pretty much rained every single day. So they get a lot of rain out here, and hopefully the clear weather will hold out. That's yet to be seen. You just have to expect a lot of rain when you come out here. And the building directly ahead, that's also a mostly glass building. That is showing up as the Tower Place East, and that is a office and retail building. So it looks like they like a lot of windows and glass in these buildings. And off to the right, this looks like a historical building here. And I can't find much about it online, but sometimes it's faster just to walk inside and just read what it says. And at the top of that building there, it says 1914 and 1918, but it looks like there's another inscription over here. And this says the 24,000 of the merchant navy and fishing fleets, whose names are honored on the walls of this garden, gave their lives for their country and have no grave but the sea. So the 24,000 people that perished in the merchant navy between 1914 1918, that would be about the time of the First World War, I believe. That's quite a few people to die in 4 years time span. And behind this courtyard area, this is a pretty interesting looking building here. Though it looks old, this is showing up as being built in 1922, and it says it's the Port Authority building, and it's no longer used as a government building. It's now a hotel, a Four Seasons. Just gonna walk around here and see if I get a better view.
Take your coat.
And here's the Port Authority building here / Four Seasons. And from the outside, it doesn't really even tell you what kind of a building it is. But that is a hotel, and at least online it says it is. And apparently it's pretty expensive. Most Four Seasons are. This one is showing up for tonight at £600 per night. So with the exchange rate, it's about $1.15 per pound. So that would be about let's see, 700 pounds. That'd be about $800. And a big factor too, when you travel to a foreign country, is what the exchange rate is. Right now it's rather favorable. If you would have come here, say 10-15 years ago, it might not have been. It was about $2 per pound. So instead of a $800 hotel, that would have been about a $1,600. So the prices would have been almost double if you're traveling from the US. And see here, just stop at these little restaurants to see what food is. This is Bourdains. Looks like a bar and grill. A grilled chicken sandwich there is 12 pounds. So that would be about $13-14. And overall, the food prices here aren't too bad. It's basically like everything in the country is half off compared to 10-15 years ago if you had traveled here. And across the street, this looks like a pretty old building, and that's showing up as a church building, and it's still used as a church. And here's another restaurant. I'm just gonna stop at all these restaurants, or as many as I can, and see their prices. A fish and chips lunch is 15 pounds, so it's about $17. And one other reason not to drive around London like most other big cities is just the traffic. It's about 2 o'clock here, so it's just going to get worse as the day goes on. There's going to be rush hour traffic like there are in most big cities. And my Google map is telling me to turn right, and I'm just going to try to figure out what street this is without sometimes. Okay, so on the side of that building there, it says Great Tower Street. And here's a pizzeria. Let me walk back to this. Just curious about what all these restaurants' pricings are. Looks like they got their menu. Most of them have menus. And a classic cheese pizza is 11 pounds. So that would be about $12.50. Pretty reasonable. It's pretty good deal when you keep in mind this is the equivalent of being like in Manhattan. So I would expect to pay more if I was in New York right now. And off to the right is another restaurant. This is called the Brew Dog. And I'm trying to find a menu here for the Brew Dog. Sometimes they don't have them. There's another entrance over here. Here we go. And let's see what's going on at the Brew Dog. A buffalo chicken burger with fries is 15 pounds. So that would be about $17. Not a bad deal. And this looks to be mostly office buildings here. Across the street, those buildings look a little bit older. I'm not even sure if they're even being used. They look empty, but I'm not completely sure about that. And one other thing that's a little bit confusing here is like streets like this, or like that taxi, like he didn't really stop, and there's like no stop signs on these streets. So I'm not really sure who's supposed to yield, the car or the pedestrian. I probably should look that up before I keep walking around, but you would think it would be the pedestrian, or the pedestrian has the right of way, but not necessarily. And then one other thing about driving in London is parking in London, and there's not a whole lot of parking on these streets, and the parking that they do have you usually have to pay for, and that sign says the per hour rate to park on this street is £5 per hour during the day. So that would add up pretty fast. That would, I mean, that would be like an 8-hour day, 40 pounds, that's about $50. That would be probably more than the car rental itself. And another good idea, those bikes across the street, you could rent those, and that would be a good idea, but it just rains so much here. In general, I wouldn't want to be on a bike with all the rain, but two pounds per day, pretty good deal. I haven't tried that yet. And also, one other thing that I like about London is it's a relatively clean city. Not just trash wise, there's not a lot of trash on the streets, but also there's not a lot of homeless. In the 3 days I've been here, I've maybe seen a small handful of homeless people. Even in the so-called bad parts of town, they don't seem to be as bad as what you would expect. Here's a coffee shop here. This is the Black Sheep Coffee. Just checking the prices. And a large latte is £4, about $4.50. Anyhow, getting back to the cleanliness of the cities, I think that could be in large part due to the social programs that they have in European countries. I think they take care of the poor people better here. It's not that there aren't poor people in London or England in general, because if you look at the average incomes they're probably higher in the US on average. People make more money, but I think in England and probably Western Europe in general, they just have better social programs if you don't have a job, or you can't get a job, or you're you know, you have health problems. I think overall they just treat people better. And this line of people here, this is the this is an office. This is showing up as an office building, and I'm not really exactly sure why everyone's lined up. It's called the Sky Garden Building, and let me see if I can get a better view of it from across the street. At the very top of that building, they have a restaurant and viewing area, and I think that is what everyone is lined up for. And it's kind of a unique building in that the top is wider than the bottom of it, and it's kind of interesting how they did that. And we should be getting closer to the financial district. And right now I'm walking in the street. I'm not really sure which way, if this is a one-way street or two ways, one more street that would confuse me if I was driving. And off to the right, this looks like a Shoemaker, a Loke Shoemaker. You get custom-made shoes there. And there are more and more of these just vacant stores, and you see them in New York, and I'm not sure if that's, or most major cities, I'm not sure if that's because of the COVID, or here's a suit supply store. Get a fancy suit there, and followed by the Grapes Bar. And the special today at the Grapes Bar is lentil soup for 5 pounds, about $6. Not a bad deal. Depends on how big the soup bowl is. Here's another clothing store, men's suits, followed by a dry cleaners and more clothing. Looks like men's suits and shoes. I guess, you know, we're getting closer to the bigger banks when they have all these suit stores. And this next building here, this is the headquarters for the Lloyds of London bank and insurance building, and they are a pretty big bank. This looks to be their headquarters, and they used a lot of stainless steel. Pretty much like the whole exterior of this building is stainless steel. And my map is telling me to make a left turn down here, and the sign here says Linden Hall Market. This looks like a very touristy spot here. Very bright colors. And let's see what this restaurant is. This is a tortilla shop, and a large chicken burrito there is 8 pounds, which would be about $9. Yeah, it looks like they have more restaurants and bars up ahead. Off to the left, here's a pizzeria. Do not see any menus outside. Here's a menu here, and let's see, a large cheese pizza, 13 pounds. It's about $15. And this restaurant across the street, that looks interesting. Looks like they got some pork shoulders hanging up there in that piglet, smiling pig. And this actually looks to be more of a mix of office people and maybe tourists. I guess I was wrong when I said it's all tourists. Looks like just office people, maybe on their lunch breaks. And back to another street here. My map is just telling me to make a right turn, at least when I can. And here is a pawn shop right across from the big fancy restaurants and bank. And this is a posh pawn. And looks like they have a lot of fancy handbags and stuff like that. So I guess if things don't work out too well for you in the stock market, you have somewhere to pawn your fancy handbag. And it looks like there's a lot of activity here across the street. They got a lot of construction going on, and looks like they're building this skyscraper here. And I've been surprised on how much construction is going on in London. I would say there's more building going on here than, say, Los Angeles. And I'm not really sure why that is, but anyhow, this is a grocery store, a Sainsbury grocery. And I always like to just walk in these stores and see £1.50 or 4 muffins. Just kind of looking for basic food items. £2 for a pound of grapes, about $2.50 a pound. Here's some sandwiches. A chicken sandwich is 2.5 pounds. That would be about $3. And here's the bread, a loaf of bread. That's a pretty big loaf. £1.25.
Thank you.
So that would be about $1.50 for that loaf of bread. And these have to be about half gallons of milk for £1 60 pence. So that'd be about $1.80 for a half gallon. Overall, pretty good prices. And here's the liquor section. Skip that. Self-checkout machines. They seem to have really embraced the self-checkout, the technology, probably a little bit more so than they have in the US. I mean, they do have self-checkouts, of course, in most major supermarkets, but I think it's a little bit more so here. And like everything else, it comes down to the exchange rate. So, you know, if I had come here back in 2007, that half gallon of milk, instead of being $1.80, that would have been about $4 for a half gallon. So it would be a completely different experience. You know, I'm sure a traveler back then would be saying, geez, everything in Europe is such a rip-off. $4 for a half gallon of milk. And that would mean now, if someone from England were to visit the United States, so they're not really getting a favorable exchange on their currency, so prices would be double there compared to what they were 10-15 years ago. And I think that's probably having an impact on international travel. Not unless you're just rich and it just doesn't matter if the prices are double. And this looks to be a mostly office building area here. Let's see. Map isn't really telling me a whole lot, but there is a bank across the street, the Zeta Bank. And okay, here's some more shops here. So we're still in the retail. We're pretty close to the Bank of England, and this is a retail area. This is a Louis Vuitton store. And directly ahead, this looks like more retail. The sign outside says the Royal Exchange. And it looks like one time it was probably a government building, but it doesn't look very government right now. Let's see what kind of stores. There's a Tiffany Company, a Omega, Boodles. I think I've heard of Tiffany before, but I have not heard of Boodles. And let's just see what's going on at the Royal Exchange. This was probably a stock exchange at one time. And we are getting pretty close to the Bank of England. And off to the right, here's the Tiffany Company diamond store. Looks to be closed today. So it looks like they have the retail just on the ground floor, and up above I'm not sure if those are offices. And in the center here's a wine bar. So this is definitely very touristy here. And there's the Boodles. What does Boodles sell? This looks like a jewelry store. And there's the Omega watch. And this looks like the exit and entrance. And just walking out of the Royal Exchange, have some statues here, interesting. Looks like a dog with a camera. Several dogs with cameras. And the building across the street, that is showing up as the Bank of England. And it looks like the ground floor is a museum, and up above, I'm not sure if the rest of the building is probably a government building. Looks like it's still being used. And I'm now on the Jubilee Walkway. And there's a couple more banking buildings here, financial centers. And the building across the street is showing up as the Bank of Ireland. And across from that, that building is listed as the Stock Exchange building. So there's more than one exchange. It could be this one is for stocks, and the one I just walked through is maybe commodities, food, and stuff like that. So we're kind of just right in the center here of the financial district, or what was the financial district. And that will conclude my tour of the financial area of London. Thank you for watching.